The Rose was one of the new character classes introduced in Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2. She was meant to be another type of support like the Sunflower, to give players an alternative for if they wanted to play another support character, but not necessarily the Sunflower. Instead of focusing on healing teammates, the Rose instead had other abilities like being able to slow down zombies or even turn them into ghosts, practically rendering them useless for a small amount of time. Some of her variants even have exclusive support abilities to them, like being able to lower a zombie's defense as well. Anyways, today I want to rank the Rose in these variants of hers to see who's the best to play. Just a quick disclaimer before we start the ranking, all of the placements in today's video are purely my opinion on how much I like the character. That means don't go in the comments and get butthurt because I put your favorite character in F tier because I felt like it, and my favorite character in S tier because I'm biased. That's kind of the whole point of the video. Also, this tier is probably going to be a little bit shorter than my normal videos, just because there's less characters to rank in this class, and I don't have as much time this week to make a video. I guess we'll see after I'm done recording these lines. Anyways, roses are red, violets are blue. I'm going to stop goofing around now, so I can make this tier list for you. First up, we got the base rose. Although I don't typically play this class that often, I have to give credit where credit's due. The Garden Warfare 2 team did an excellent job of making a creative off support that's very fun to play. Unlike the Sunflower, the Rose doesn't really have a way to heal her teammates other than one ability that you don't even unlock until a little later in the game, which I personally don't like. I think her only having one healing ability is fine, since the Sunflower is supposed to be the main healer on the Plants team, but I think they could have made her healing ability a tiny bit better. That's all. The Rose also has an ability to make a teleporter for her and her teammates to use, along with sentry turrets to protect it as well. Anyways, onto her main attack, the Rose has an automatic but slower firing weapon that has homing on it. The homing will follow its intended target unless the target is either very fast or the bullet hits a wall or object, but you have to shoot the bullet while the zombie you're aiming at is in your crosshair or the homing won't work. I think they did a good job at balancing the homing effect because although it does lock on pretty hard to you, the bullets move very slowly and you're able to dodge them if you can move quick enough, making the Rose not completely overpowered. Also, if you're far enough from your target, the homing effect will also wear off as well. Overall, I think the Rose is not only a very solid support character, minus the whole healing thing, but she can even hold her own in a fight as well, which is pretty good. I forgot to mention this earlier, but the Rose is typically better at close range combat because it's harder for the zombies to dodge her bullets the closer she is because they have less time to move away from the homing effect. Overall though, I think the base Rose is one of my least favorite Roses in the Rose class though, so I'm probably going to put her in B tier. Next up, we have the Druid Rose, and I'd say she's kind of finicky. She has a few things altered from the normal Rose. She gains the toxic effect on her bullets, allowing her to deal toxic damage, along with also having increased homing strength from the normal Rose. In exchange for this though, each of her shots do around 4 less damage than the OG Rose, which is a considerable amount, along with her bullets also traveling very slow compared to the base Rose. Now, the reason why she's very finicky is because she kind of has a very specific playstyle that doesn't really fit a lot of people. You see, with the normal Rose and most of the other Roses in this tier list, they have a pretty obvious range that they thrive in, but the Druid Rose's range is kind of a lot harder to get used to for most people. She has a very specific scenario that you have to set up to make her good, but when you do, she's very overpowered. I'm not really an expert on this character, so I don't really know the specifics on what the range is, but from what I've heard, you want to be in a more open area while also having a line of cover from the zombies. The reason why, at least from my understanding, is because the shots move very slow, so you don't want to let the zombies hide behind a wall or something. The reason why you want to have something to hide behind is because the Druid Rose just doesn't do enough damage quick enough to blast zombies in the face, so she needs cover to heal, while the zombie still takes damage from her toxic effect. Personally, I'm not really that good at this character, but I can understand if you really like her. For that reason though, I'm just going to put her in the bottom of C tier just because I personally don't really like playing her. But once again, I can understand if you think she's really good though. Next up, we have the Radical Funky Party Rose. This one's probably going to be a quick ranking because she's very similar to the normal Rose, barring a few tiny things. Basically, the Party Rose sacrifices almost half of the Rose's ammo and 1 point of damage in exchange for the Party Time meter. Before I explain what Party Time is for people who don't know, I definitely think that sacrificing half of our ammo is not worth having a temporary buff. Basically, Party Time gives the character using it a faster movement speed, a little bit more damage, and a higher defense. The problem though is that you have to get a certain amount of consecutive kills without dying to activating it, meaning if you don't have enough kills to activate the meter and then you die, the whole meter resets. Typically, this meter is at least an okay trade-off for whatever nerf the character gets from their base version, but I think the Party Rose just loses way too much for her to be worth it. I think the fact that she loses as much ammo as she does just kind of turns me off from using her, even if she has the Party Time buff. Anyways, I personally think she's just a worse version of the normal Rose, so I'll put her a little bit below the Rose in C tier. Moving on, we now have the Fire Rose. She's very different from the Roses that we've talked about before, as she shoots kind of differently. Instead of having an automatic rifle type of gun like the base Rose and the other Roses we've talked about, she now has a semi-automatic gun instead, with almost half as much ammo as the normal Rose. The trade-off though comes with the ability for her to have a fire effect on her bullets, as well as being able to charge her shots to do up to 50 damage per shot, which is absolutely insane. When she does charge up her bullets, she does use a tiny bit more ammo per shot, but it's definitely worth it. I personally like this charge shot method better than the automatic version that the OG has, as I feel like it's more satisfying to get kills with it. I'm also a very big fan of the fire effect as well, as it's usually always a good thing. You might be wondering why I like the Fire Rose better than the Party Rose, even though they both have the same downside of having only 18 ammo instead of 30 compared to the OG Rose, but it's just because I personally think the ability to charge up shots that can do up to 50 damage along with the super overpowered fire effect is definitely worth the trade-off. Also, if you do run her, I personally had the most luck using the burn upgrade on her, so I'd recommend using it if you want to play as her. This Rose is probably my top 2 favorite Roses at the least, so I'm going to put her all the way up in S tier. Up next, we have the Frost Rose. Although I don't think she's a bad character, I do think she's a worse version of the Fire Rose. All of her abilities and effects are almost the exact same as the Fire Rose, minus a few little things. For one, she has a little bit more ammo than the Fire Rose, having 20 ammo instead of 18, but that's only a small difference that usually isn't even that noticeable. Her 2 main differences are her ice effect and her bullet speed. Her ice effect essentially freezes zombies after a few hits with her, but the problem is that the fire effect is just better in my opinion. Although being able to freeze zombies is useful, I think the extra damage you get from the fire is just better. She also has increased bullet speed as well, which is also useful, but it comes with the cost of having a slightly inferior homing. From my experience playing as both of them, I'd say the Fire Rose is better at close range, and the Frost Rose is better at far range. I think deciding between her and the Fire Rose just kind of comes down to the preference, but I think I do prefer the Fire Rose a tiny bit more than the Frost Rose, so I'll put her in A tier. I also do want to mention this really quickly at the end, but I feel like the freeze effect would have been better for the close range character, and the fire effect would have been better for the far range character. Last up, we have the Necromancer Rose, better known for her nickname, Neck Rose. The Neck Rose follows the same type of firing as the Fire and Frost Rose, with her being able to charge up her shots as well. She doesn't, however, have the nerf of losing half of her ammo, which is great. Unfortunately though, even with her charged up shots, she only does a third of the damage that the Fire and Frost Rose can do, making her base shots pretty weak. Her ability, however, is where she shines. Whenever she hits a zombie with a fully charged shot, she jinxes the zombie, making it take 75% more damage to all incoming attacks for a few seconds. This ability isn't very good on its own, but it makes a really good support ability for other teammates, especially when dealing with tanky zombies, which is why I really like this character. I think her ability is very creative, and I like how it plays into the Rose being more of a support character and less of a sole damage dealer like a lot of the other Roses in this tier list. Although I don't think she's the best Rose, I think she's one of the most fun Roses to play and the most creative out of the bunch, so I'll give her A tier. Thanks for watching, guys. The Rose class is probably one of my, if not my least favorite class in the entirety of Garden Warfare 2. That's not to say I don't like the class, it's just one of my least favorite classes in the game, so I really had to go back and look over each Rose several times to make sure I had all the info right, since I don't really play the characters that much. If you guys disagree with any of the placements in this video, or I got some information wrong, feel free to tell me in the comments section. Also, if there's another game you want me to cover, or some other groups of things in Garden Warfare 2 you want me to cover, leave them in the comments as well. Make sure to like, subscribe, and watch another one of my videos, and as always, adios!